As many of you know, if you've been watching this channel for a while, I live in the beautiful Bay Area, and I am something of an outdoorsy person. I mean, you'd probably know that even if you skip the majority of my video's runtime and just get to the clip of my dog at the end, where he is often running around the parks and beaches of California. I especially love the ocean, so I spend a significant amount of time doing things like kayaking, surfing, snorkeling, and scuba diving. And I do that despite the fact that I am located right smack dab in what is known as the Red Triangle, a chunk of the Pacific Ocean that extends from Bodega Bay in the north down to Big Sur in the south and out west to the Farallon Islands. This area is chock full of sea life and food, which is part of what makes it so rewarding to spend time here. You know, we have thick kelp forests, giant schools of herring and rockfish and tuna, big mammals like seals and sea lions, and of course the thing that likes to feed on those, sharks. Notably great white sharks, which is the species that is most likely to kill humans, if you don't count oceanic white tips, which most statistics don't because no one really knows how many people they've eaten, because they tend to hang out in the middle of the ocean waiting for a ship to sink or a plane to crash, and then they just head to the buffet. But encounters with great white sharks can result in human fatalities, and about 11% of all those fatalities in the world occur right here in my home territory. And tragically, last month, there appears to have been another such fatality. Obvious warning here, what I'm about to talk about is very sad and very scary. Erica Fox was an extremely talented triathlete and co-founder of a group of open water swimmers who gathered each week to spend time swimming Monterey Bay. On a particularly clear and calm day, the group of about a dozen swimmers returned to the beach to find that Fox was missing, and witnesses on land reported that they had seen what appeared to be a shark breaching the water with a human body in its mouth. A week later, Fox's body was found about 25 miles north off of Davenport Beach. Fox's friend and fellow swimmer, Sarah Rubin, who was in that group the day Fox disappeared, wrote that she understood the risk of swimming in an ocean habitat that is home to white sharks, and she understood the risk in context. I think she would be horrified to see the frenzied news coverage of this incident. She would also certainly object to framing this as an attack, and she would urge us to instead call it an incident. An animal's behavior is just that. I have found myself searching for something to be angry at in facing this loss and then feeling a little confused when I can come up with nothing. It is unreasonable to be angry at a shark. In the absence of anyone or anything to direct anger toward, I'm left just with sadness. Erica was a bright light of a person who was quick to laugh and seemed to be always smiling. There's a feeling of shock to lose someone so vital and a grief resonating through the community of swimmers she helped create. My heart aches for everyone who knew Erica, including everyone who she helped learn to love the ocean. Personally, I was heartened to read such a beautiful, moving tribute to her friend. I've seen a lot of people, for a start, use this incident as a reason to suggest that a person would have to be crazy to get in the water around here. And that ignores the relatively low actual risk that educated and prepared people face in the water, as well as ignoring the immense positive impact that the ocean has on our physical and mental well-being. I've gone diving in the place where this incident occurred, and I was far more concerned at the time with the rough waves I had to get through when entering and exiting at Monastery Beach, compared to any shark that I might encounter. I go foraging along the beaches around there as well, and it's far more dangerous navigating slippery tide pools and potential sneaker waves pulling a person out to sea with no protection than it is to be in the water in a warm wetsuit surrounded by a group of other people. Fox's death is the first shark-related fatality to happen in that area in many decades, with only an injury reported every few years from sharks. Meanwhile, about 5 people die every year along the coast thanks to sneaker waves, but no one shames people for going to the coast just to hang out on the beach or look through the tide pools. when that's where that dangerous thing happens. Sneaker waves can come at any time and drag someone out to sea if they're not paying attention. As I talked about in this video from last summer, shark encounters that end with a human hurt or dead often lead to people calling for pseudoscientific reactions like shark culls or hunting down the one particular man-eater as if Jaws was a documentary. But I'd like to use this particular moment to talk about another bit of pseudoscience that gets promoted at times like this. Products that promise to repel sharks from swimmers, surfers, and other enjoyers of the ocean. Now, before one of these companies sues me for defamation, I'll say that it is my opinion that these products are, for the most part, useless. They sponsor their own research, and some of that research does show reductions in shark encounters. And I am more persuaded by independent research that has shown sharks mostly don't seem to give a shit about these devices. I'll also be totally upfront and honest about my trump card here in this video. Erica Fox, the swimmer who appears to have been fatally injured by a shark, was wearing one of these products at the time of her death. That product is called Shark Bands, and it is essentially a permanent magnet that you strap to your wrist or ankle. Fox, like many other swimmers in her group, was wearing Shark Bands because back in 2022, another swimmer with their group was pulled underwater by a shark at Lover's Point, the same location that Fox disappeared. He survived, but the incident obviously shook everyone up. So they contacted Shark Bands, who offered them a discount code. And so for the past few years, they've been wearing them with the hope that it makes them a little safer. There is evidence that a strong magnet could dissuade a shark or ray, animals that do use electrosensitivity to navigate and hunt prey. The problems, though, are many. For a start, magnets like Shark Bands aren't detected by sharks beyond a few meters, which the Shark Bands website says, sure, but that's a good reason to buy two. You put one on your wrist and the other on your ankle. Another problem is that sometimes sharks get hungry. Sometimes sharks try to take a bite out of something that might be extremely painful for them, but it's worth it because, they need to eat. When there was food nearby, magnets did nothing to influence sand tiger sharks in this study from 2021, which mirrored the results from this earlier study that found that they did nothing to deter great white sharks either. And again, here in the red triangle, food is always nearby. It's not you're a scrawny toothpick, but you kind of look like the food. And you flap around desperately in the water like the food. And by the time the shark is within a few feet of you, it might not care too much that your little magnet is making its head feel weird. Finally, one of the coolest features of Monterey Bay is its incredible depth. Just off the shore is an abyss the size of the Grand Canyon, which allows white sharks plenty of room to launch one of their favorite attacks on prey, an ambush, which they do by quickly closing a large distance, usually from below, and grabbing their meal. By the time they're in motion, they aren't stopping for anything, let alone a little magnet. Judging by the reports from witnesses of what happened with Fox, it seems like this was probably an ambush attack. Shark Bands claims that they warned the Monterey Bay swimmers that their products could not prevent an ambush attack when they placed their group discount order. And that information is located somewhere on their website, but goddamn did it take me a while to find it. First, I found an effective shark repellent, proven technology, validated by over 2 decades worth of research and testing from independent scientists and government field studies. Research, tested, proven to elicit avoidance behavior in hammerheads, bull sharks, white sharks, Australian blacktips, sandbar, lemon, gray reef, milk, speartooth sharks. Finally, I got to the frequently asked questions. Under does it work? The answer was just yes, followed by 3 paragraphs, at the end of which is the note that Shark Bands are a safety device, much like bike lights, and there is no guarantee of no shark interactions. Shark Bands reduce the risk. They do not eliminate the risk altogether. And eventually there is, can Shark Bands deter great whites specifically? Which, again, And they are by far the number one species that encounters with humans can result in fatalities. In the response to that question, Sharkband cites anecdotal reports of customers who claim their products repel great whites. Finally, they do admit that they are useless against ambush attacks before quickly pivoting back to those anecdotes, like this one from Michael in Oregon. I had a great white encounter while paddle surfing the cove. After a cleanup set, I was swimming back to my board when a dorsal fin broke between my board and me. It was a big dark fin and coming at me hard. It got within 5 or 6 feet and thrashed really hard. Then suddenly the shark made a violent hard left and bolted out of the area. I wore shark bands on my right wrist and left ankle. Thank God. Fascinating. You know what's weird is I have an extremely similar story. A few years ago, I was surfing a deserted beach break in Half Moon Bay, completely alone, no other surfers, no swimmers, not even any beachgoers. As I sat on my board waiting for a wave, a big, dark fin broke the surface with a smaller tail fin about 6 feet behind it. This is what told me this was not a dolphin. The shark was headed straight at me, so I pulled my feet out of the water and up onto the board, and when it was about 5 or 6 feet away, the fin sank back under the water, and I saw this giant shadow turn sharply and head out to sea. I paddled in as calmly as possible, and then I went home. I was not wearing shark bands. Now, in the course of this video, you have heard 4 different anecdotes of shark encounters. 2 people wearing shark bands, one of whom ended up dead, and 2 people who did not wear shark bands, both of whom survived. I'm sure that right now, Shark Band's marketing team understands why we don't use anecdotes to make scientific claims. All of this is not to suggest that it's impossible to repel sharks while in the water. Both of the studies I cited earlier, which found no impact from a permanent magnet like shark bands, did find some effect from electric devices, though even those were quite finicky and only worked inside of 2 meters. There's always the possibility that researchers will stumble upon something that could actually make a difference, but that data will have to come from outside of a brand's marketing team if we're going to trust it. In the meanwhile, I personally think it's wildly deceptive for companies to sell products by loudly claiming so much scientific evidence for their effectiveness while quietly glossing over the fact that even their own data can't support using it against the shark known to be most fatal to humans playing in the water near the coast. Oh, and you know what? Don't get me started on shark bands using Bethany Hamilton as their spokesperson. If you don't know, she's a surfer who lost her arm in a shark encounter when she was just 13, which is truly horrifying and heartbreaking. But here's the thing. What are the chances Bethany Hamilton is going to lose one of the other 3 limbs to another shark? They're just cynically playing the odds, in my opinion. And I can make that awful joke because Bethany Hamilton is a transphobe, so fuck her. Anyway, that's how I feel about shark bands. Feel free to spread this video around after I am inevitably killed in a fatal shark encounter so you can say, ha ha, told you so. That is, if I'm not instead killed on my bicycle by a 12-foot tall SUV driven by a teenager who's texting, or murdered by an obsessed stalker with a gun and an untreated mental illness, or burned to a crisp by wildfires that are caused by worsening climate change, or, I don't know, probably something to do with microplastics maybe. Look, until then, I'm just going to go ahead and live my life and try not to think about any of that. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you loved the video, please subscribe. And if you think the world could use more videos like this and you happen to have a few bucks laying around, head to patreon.com/Rebecca and join an awesome community of nerds like the people whose names you see on the screen right now. Thanks.